right, let's go for a stroll. I've got quite the journey to undertake this morning. Sunday, and we are probably February 27th today, something like that, 2022. And yeah, I've got some ideas to share with you. So I have a discovery, and with that discovery is a new teaching, which is just a basic extension of the teaching that's already being done. And it's about a breakthrough that I had. This guy's calling his dog back here. You're not supposed to leave your dogs on a leash or without a leash, but everybody seems to do it. It doesn't worry me none. But got to listen to him yell constantly. All right, so I'm writing a new book, and this is where God has led me, and I understand why. And the idea has to do with my discovery being the revelation of how trauma plays into the submission to evil that usually happens with these, what they call these mind-based rituals that are happening on a large scale now throughout the entire world. You know, it's like they've been perfected, and now they're being simulated on a mass scale, because the idea here is, and you'll have to forgive me if you're one of those people doing it, because I'm about to destroy your whole program and your whole matrix, because Christ is, and outside of Christ there is nothing else. And so we're going to get back to that place by the end of this video. And so I'm going to go through the first teaching of this new book, and I'll just tell you right now, the title of the book and the subtitle give you the whole premise of what's coming. And by the way, this is copyright material. I'm laying claim to this title right now, so first in the market doing it. So don't try to copy it, because you won't be able to copy it. But anyway, the book title is called Love, and the subtitle is Living the Good Life. Now, you are born in love. You are created in love, it says in the scriptures. In His image and likeness, created in love. Now imagine this all-knowing, all-seeing, all-encompassing divine power that governs all creation. And it has firmly established you in the substance of its own perfection. And yet at the same time, we walk amongst these terror visions that come from the TV. The terror vision comes from the media, comes from the prince of the air that governs the airwaves. You know, this carnal mind that Paul talked about in the Bible, I call it the mortal fiction, because mortality is a fiction. Well, this human sense perception, what we see, smell, hear, taste, and touch, that's where we derive this information from a life in flesh. We derive this from those five senses. They're always taking in this data, and we are preparing our case, our judgments, all the time. And that's how the idea of the whole judicial system, the court system, the courts of heaven, and then below you got this idea of law, and then there's supreme law. Divine love is the governing law of all creation. And then the antithesis of that is man-made law. Man-made law is nothing essentially built on statutes, which means dead relics. That's what a statute is. It's a dead relic. It's in plain sight for you to see. Now this will all come together. This means something. I'm not trying to knock anything. I'm just saying it's in plain sight so you can see it. Forgive me for the wind. It's one of those days. Should quiet down in about 5 to 10 minutes when I get to the other side of the pier. And so this idea of trauma is critical. I'm just allowing for the wind to have its place. So when you look up the etymology of trauma, get this, you probably don't even know this, and though you probably could have looked it up the whole time. It means to rob. Who came to rob, steal, and kill? The enemy. What is the enemy? The carnal mind of this world. What do we know of that carnal mind? It's called fear. What is fear? It's another word for Satan. What is fear? It's the first step to sin. Say this blows, it would be really out apropos right now. I'm 100% in flow state, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I'll just pick up whenever, just right back where we left off. Don't even have to think about it. I'm not even given this transmission. This is being transferred right through me. All of this new teaching. It's like being a musician and you hear the song in your head and you just start letting the song play you. It's exactly how these revelations come. Trauma. Just use this like your AMSR video, okay? It's when you listen to sounds and they kind of soothe you. I won't speak until the wind stops. Just let this be your AMSR video. So this whole time I'm withholding the state. I'm persisting in the state of where you want to be. So just let this transmission just go. We're going to use all things for good, even this wind. We're going to roll with it. It's part of the transmission. It's part of the act. It's not good, it's not bad. It's just phenomenon. We just let it be. Let it pass right through. There's a pretty cool phenomenon that happens here in Sheboygan when it gets nice and hot out. Is like today, you can feel the sun, this warm glare. It's just coming down on the skin, if you will, and at the same time, this freezing chill comes off the lake. And so, slight experience of that right now. In the summer, it's really hot. It's 90. It's humid. But then there's this chill that comes off the lake. You get the best of both worlds. So I go run by the lake a lot and do sprints across about a 200-yard field. Just put on my weight vest and just do some warm-ups. And then just go all out and just, work on that explosion. Just that explosion of, just moving energy, just fast. Being fast and agile. Youthfulness of spiritual mobility. That's the quality being demonstrated in power. Power is the spiritual quality of God too. Man is the vessel of those qualities. So back to our talk about trauma, man is the vessel of these qualities. God's qualities. Well, we know God's qualities are power, patience, love, peace, joy, kindness, gentleness, meekness, faith, temperance, forbearance. That's another word for patience, humility, goodness. Can't forget goodness. So you got all these ideas of what is real, eternal, constant. These are fixed positions in the mind of creative intelligence, infinite source, God, whatever you want to call it. It's the root of all that comes into being. And trauma is the error that sweeps the earth looking for a host. And it always shows up through material fashion form, attempting to beguile those in the middle place through human reasoning. That's why they say human reasoning is of the devil. Qualifies everything with good and bad and gives God's power away to the other. Okay? So the idea here is that this book is that I'm going to interview 14 experts that I've chosen, that I've come across, that I've witnessed, that they demonstrate this principle of love being expressed, their being in the love. And all around these individuals, because they are being in the love, there are miracles breaking out all over the place. Healings are happening. People are walking out of addictions. The prosperity is being unleashed. This is all part of the Eastern philosophies, the Eastern religions teach that, this body and my world are one and the same. My world is my extended body. That's quantum physics as well. Infinite worlds appear and reappear in the vast expanse of consciousness like motes of dust dancing in a beam of light. That's what reality is this wispy fluff of fashion form. It's unintelligent. See, you don't have any more life in you than you have in the street pole here, in your physical body. It's not there. That's a human sense perception through the carnal belief. And that law is of envy and strife. And so, in that observation of a material world outside of yourself, seeking for a deity outside of yourself, trying to get somewhere as if you of yourself have any power to do so, versus, allowing the journey of my personal self-discovery was I wrote the first best-selling book that I wrote called Mastering the Law of Least Effort to Receive Your Desires. I went from bedridden and bankrupt with Lyme disease all the way to manifesting my first 7-figure company and having tremendous miracles break out. And that was learning this law of receiving good versus chasing success. And then I wrote the next book, Ask Until It's Given. Going through quite a spiritual journey at that time. I had realized that, this battle that I was winning was about persistence. That's why you ask until. Ask means to command. You must persist in a state of being. Self-entrainment technique came out, then, and it was persisting in that state of being, holding that posture, being in that presence of that fruit of the Spirit, walking into the newness of life and holding that to the contrary of all material evidence. And then I wrote the book Trust, the Most Powerful Force in the Universe. Now, since that time, Sabrina and I we've evolved our relationship quite a bit. We've recognized that our tenure together as a married couple, it went through many ups and downs throughout the years, and we have a beautiful family, and we really enjoy that part of our creation, as well as our ministry and just our principles of who we are. And so along the way, I wrote this book called The Divine Marriage, or a chapter called The Divine Marriage in that book, and I shared a different way of looking at the world in terms of not putting the qualifications on your partner to make you happy or to be anything other than what they already are. The goal is not to change somebody to conform them to your standard. It's to reveal what God is doing through them at this season of your life for your own benefit, so that you can express more God-like qualities and refine your spiritual walk. That's the truth. So the divine marriage is to the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit operates through the vessels in front of you. So allegedly, two physical beings can be in a relationship, but there's only one mind operating through that relating. It's the harmony expressed through the individualized consciousness in the unification by mirroring each other at the level of growth that you presently find yourself. And so these people are teachers for you. Relationships are designed to teach you. That's what they're designed for. Because the divine love within you requires nothing outside of itself. You don't need a partner to be complete. You are complete. So I talked about the divine marriage. Now, since that time, many things have happened and many things have come along the path. And as you see, Sabrina still ministers in the ministry, and she still has her daily prayers. And I have my teachings, and I also have these contents that I'm producing, these new workshops coming, new material based on love. And so at the chapter that I was in with Sabrina, now Sabrina taught me trust, the most powerful force in the universe. And I dedicated that book to her because I don't know anybody on this planet that can demonstrate that better than she can. Why did she come into my life? Well, she knew this when she came into my life. She told me, she said, I knew when we started dating, these are her words, I'm paraphrasing. She said, I just wanted to be friends, you really wanted to pursue this. And I knew going into it that you were going to go through some extremely hard things. She said, you remember that time at the park when we first started dating? She's like, remember when I tried to break up with you? She's like, I cried that day because I knew how hard it was going to be for you. She said, but I also knew that if I didn't come into your life and be there for you, you'd probably die. And that's 100% true. So, Sabrina is a literal angel that not only was there for me at that time, but also gave me a family. And it's just the most impactful blessing I could have ever asked for. So the next chapter of life that I'm learning is I'm learning about love. And so I'm going to ask somebody to help write the foreword of this book, somebody that I've been looking up to for a couple years, and somebody who teaches the love bubbles at our workshops, and I really believe is a spiritual master, not only a master of the physical, through the, achievements that he's accomplished there, but a spiritual master. And you know who that is. And so I'm going to ask him to possibly write the foreword to this book. And the one thing I learned is I started doing a lot of real deep looking at the traumas that I've gone through. Now, some people would say, yes, you were part of the MK Ultra mind control. You were really put through all that stuff. And I could tell you that trauma had been severe through so many times in my life. I can't explain to you all the things that I've gone through. It's just not normal, according to some normal people, right? It's just not normal. So I've had a lot of paranormal things happen to be just quite simple about it. And so then, lo and behold, you can learn about, the story of my journey through my books and my teachings. I've gone through some of the hardest things. And every single time, it was love that set me free. Just like the Bible says, just like the gospel teaches us. But not everybody understands what that love is, because trauma is the assertion that love is not present right now. Listen to me closely. This trauma-based mind programming that's going on right now all over the world, it comes through the suggestion. Now, this is the fictional carnal mind of this world that Paul talked about. It's the serpent trying to get into the garden of thought and get you to believe that at some point in time and space, which is an illusion, by the way, in the dream of your five senses, that love is absent. God is absent. That's the trick. And it comes through as terror that gets you in the place of stepping into fear. Fear is the first step to sin, according to the Nag Hammadi Library and the Gospel of Truth. Fear, confusion, lack of trust, division, double-mindedness. That's our steps into sin. That's how we get bound by Satan into the ways of the flesh. That is the mortal fiction of the carnal mind itself possessing you because you yield to it. You have to yield to it. It has no root, has no power. Now, therein lies its own weakness and impotence, is that it can't do anything because it has no authority. It has no root. It's nothing. All of it is nothing. Nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So if you read my books, you can get a lot of the backstory, especially getting into trust. Just start at trust, go through 0 point, okay? And I have trainings with these books. Okay? And they will guide you through all of the deep knowledge that I took in along this journey that allowed me to break free from all of these things, to get rid of that idea of Lyme disease and train like a pro athlete, breaking records at age 45 that I didn't even break in my 20s, to prospering when I had no possible solution. Back with Lyme disease, living in the middle of the country, no friends, no family, no nothing to draw upon, and going through absolute terror every single day. How did I end up living the good life, just like the subtitle of the new book? How did I do that if it weren't for divine love itself? Now, divine love is the restoration of truth and the yielding before that truth in fearlessness, having no fear. And that's why the guy that I want you to write the foreword of this book, you know who I'm talking about. I believe, I've listened to his story many times, and I've modeled him, and I've been able to transform this whole area by using some of the things I've learned and tying it into my own teachings and coming up with, the convergence of those principles picked up. But I recognize that, he has gained this mastery along the way. And it is the fearlessness itself, that I really believe he demonstrates, and also the love comes out of that demonstration. And you see, what stands in between that is trauma. Here's what trauma looks like. You go through your first breakup in a relationship, and you wanted to date this really popular, really good-looking person. Let's just say maybe there were 2 levels above you according to social standards, right? And maybe you got lied to, you got cheated on, you got dumped cold, just flat out. Okay? And all of a sudden then your emotional piece is broken. And then in that space, I am less than is your tune that you go singing everywhere. And then you try to overcompensate for that feeling of being less than by, getting a better body, by making more money, trying to be more than you already are. Hi there. And so that effort to be worthy starts to drive you, and that is the invalidation of the self. So you invalidate the self every time you allow your peace to be broken and then pursue through human will things that you want to bring onto yourself as if you're not complete already. That's the opposite of allowing. That's striving, that's hustling. That's all the garbage that they teach you in this world that is really just trying to overcome for some other deficiency. You are already endowed and equipped with all that is. It's consciousness itself. And so you have to get to a point where you go through these tracks and these cycles, like the study of German New Medicine, these 9-year cycles, these cycles that come, and we have these emotional upsets, these unexpected emotional upsets create these conflicts. And then the resolution of the conflicts shows up usually as the dis-ease on the body. It's the expelling of that energy through what you call the organs, tissues, and blood, and all these things that you believe are the material, but the material is nothing but frozen thoughts in time and space. So essentially what it is it's that disturbance in the thought field, and it's going through its coagulation, okay, and its destruction, period. Okay, everything must circulate freely in a healthy organism, and this coagulation, this blood clot thing is a big story nowadays, this coagulation theory. It implies that at some point in the universe, harmony is disrupted. That's the first principle of wisdom right there, that breaks the whole illusion of that. Harmony is persistent at all points of the universe and can't be disrupted. Now, if you step into your trauma though, because you'll notice this is what the brain does, and this is my great discovery. So my great discovery comes from 3 different references that I was able to pierce through the veil and get the deep wisdom of these teachings. First of all, we have Dr. John Sarno with his book Healing Back Pain. Now, many people across the world have attributed his work as being paramount to their freedom from suffering lifelong debilitating pain through their spine, their neck, even other parts of the body, even the corresponding signaling through the other nerves and everything else that you'd want to say. I mean, it's referred pain, they call it. Okay, so the idea here is, a long time ago, I had this problem. My back went out, allegedly. It's a physical thing, right? Really bad. For several days, I could barely get off the ground. Chiropractor couldn't touch me without making me like, ah! But, lo and behold, I know how to allow. Fortunately, I turned it over to God, and boom, this book, Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno, came. And I read his statements, and I instantly got it, that the brain was creating this condition he discovered called mild oxygen deprivation in order to facilitate diversion. Diverting what? Well, suppressing feelings of anger to the point of rage. We didn't want to feel that stuff. I didn't want to feel anger and rage, so my body allowed a alternate pathway, okay, through the brain, allegedly, okay, that you think you have a brain, you don't have anything physical, but this is the way it works. So the brain shuts down the oxygen, and then all of a sudden that lack of oxygen, mild oxygen deprivation, causes the inflammation and the pain, and that swelling goes on down in that spot, and it's all caused because of suppressed anger to the point of rage. So he says we have to think emotionally, not physically. Oh, look at that. Well, what is he doing? Well, anyway, let me tell you what he's doing after I tell you how it worked. So I started telling myself, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. This is just suppressed anger to the point of rage. I shall resume normal activities, and boom, went right back to the gym, full on in pain, by the way. And I'm like, I'm gonna deadlift today. I'm perfect. Nothing's wrong with me. So that first set, I did like just 135, 245s one on each side with the bar, and I lifted it up. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Like see that fear came in. That fear is trauma. Right in that fleeting moment, that boom, that thought that comes in, oh, I'm so scared. That's what trauma-based mind control programming is designed to do. It's designed to step into the middle of truth, the truth that sets you free, and to assert to you in that cloud of vapor of ignorance that there is a lack of love here, because love sets free, and love also chastens. See, love is the great redeemer. It's the great redeeming force. It sets free and it chastens, okay? So what happens, and what I think happens, is that Dr. John Sarmo really is, he reverse engineered a law, an axiom in law, that how something is bound, it must be unbound. So Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science, okay, which I draw upon a lot, absolute genius, and discovered many, many, many things. She discovered that we have to reverse the claim, okay? And we reverse the law being bound in the flesh by spiritualizing it through our thought. See, we're taking it from frozen thoughts in time space into the ether, into the Holy of Holies, going back through how we sinned. Okay, we sinned through the imagination, through human thought, by taking a graven image of this world, a mortal concept of being limited to some capacity of your own design, and not recognizing that you are of divine design. So you've created a life that is not the carnal mind itself. It's the antipode of spirit. It's the unreality of matter. It's the illusion of the temporal five-sense dream. And so, you'll have to pardon me, the wind is gonna blow for a little bit here. And I'll go say hi to, actually Sabrina's mom's right here. I'm gonna go say hi to the dogs with her. Maybe she wants to be on the video. Hey Candace, you wanna say hi on my video?
Sure.
I'm gonna put this video up.
Hi.
Hey, what's your little buddies doing down here?
They're loving you.
Oh,
That's
Spike
Boomer.
and Boomer.
Yeah, this is Spike.
Yeah. Oh, they're just digging it, aren't they?
And we call him OK Boomer.
Okay, Boomer.
To be.
Oh yeah. I know what you're saying. All right, well, stay warm.
Okay, you too.
Okay. So, I believe John Sarno was able to produce the same protocol, okay, not the exact same comprehension of knowledge, but yet so close to what Mary Baker Eddy discovered. Okay, now that's one example. And then we have German New Medicine. When I went through that and I learned about these emotional upsets, unexpected emotional shocks that create an upset, which is a conflict. And we have different conflicts, like an isolation conflict, an abandonment, these air conflicts, abandonment, isolation, rejection, and existence. And then we have other ones, right? And I started to see what was being discovered here is that whenever we lost our peace, we turn to another power, another design. We believe in the good and evil. We start to eat of that tree of knowledge because we begin ascribing qualities and powers to the circumstances and events and people that show up. And if you recognize the Vedic teachings, is that the extended body, the world outside of you is your extended body. Well, here's two ideas you got to hold, is that you don't have a physical body, and there's only one manifest. There's only one substance, one God. Now get this, if there's only one substance and one God and one body, that means the whole entire allness of creation is filled with divine love. That's it. That's all there is. I said that's all there is. But trauma comes in to say, no, there's also you, and there's also other people, and there's also a timeline, and there's also all of your past history, and there's also all of the present war going on, and also, and it begins to create an entire fictional tale about how you are responsible for your own affairs, about how you must bear the burden of all of the so-called mistakes that are happening in your life, and how you have to have enough reasoning capacity to get ahead in life, and it leads you into a pit of hell in a state of self-defeat, okay? Because it destroys itself. That's the whole point. It's error. It's error. The computational error at the first principle is that there's God and then there's you. There is no such thing. There's God alone. You live, move, and have your being in God, in Christ, in the consciousness of all that is divine love itself. But trauma is the snake in the garden that disrupts your peace. The five human senses report something. You label one side as good, the other side as bad. For instance, there's this great pain that shows up. Okay, and what happens is, why did that show up? Well, Dr. Phineas Parkhurst Quimby discovered that minds mingle. He said minds mingle. So we could be in a room. How do minds mingle? Well, somebody yawns across the room and I see it through the peripheral, and then I feel that I have to yawn. How did something they did over there cause me to feel something and replicate the same activity? That's what Phineas Parkhurst Quimby discovered, is he could sit next to a sick patient and he could take on their feelings, and then he would explain to them, so I have taken on your feelings which I have explained to you, and yet I have no fear of this disease. Do you say I have this disease? And they'd say, well, no, you don't have the disease. And he'd say, well, how can I not have the disease if I have the same feelings that you do, that you call the disease? And he would undo, through a mental conversation, put it together, that there is no disease, because he didn't have it, and yet they claim to have it, and they both have the same sensations that are called the disease. So what is the disease other than a belief? Exactly. And so when he was wholly able to remove their fear, which is the trauma itself, and trauma means to rob, it means you're being robbed. It means that Satan is binding you in that space. That's what it means. Because there was a qualification or a judgment made, just like when you got broke up with at a certain time in your life, and you decided all blondes were bimbos, or you decided that, you know, all buff sports dudes were jock assholes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to swear, but that's, you know, you made some distinction in your reasoning. Okay, reasonings of the devil, remember? And through that reasoning, you have created an alter, a persona, and now you're living through that persona, and it is rooted itself in ignorance. And because it's rooted in ignorance, it draws upon that source and it binds you. Hi there.
Hello.
And so what do we do to unbind us? Well, it's not us. We don't have the power to unbind ourselves, because there is no us in God. It's to restore the allness of God. And what is God? It's love. And so the whole point of this book is I've designed the protocol to get back into that place of love. And it's the app that I built called the RIP. Hold on, got to go with the wind again. Just got to do it. Remember, this is your AMSR time. This is when you integrate the teaching. Just let it be. It's part of the show. For some people, it might be the best part of the show. I bet you there are some people out there that could care less to listen to a word I say, but being in my presence, they would transform, because I'm in the allness of spirit. we got glaciers forming. Oops, camera's buzzing out again. Come on, there you go. All right, so getting back to the principle of what love is. Love is the perfect love is God. Perfect love is beyond human thought. Let's put it that way. The love that I'm describing is the verb, the action that sets free, and the action that chastens. And that's what the whole premise of this is to put yourself into the verb, into the doing, the activity of the expression of that love, so that it chastens all of the ignorance off of you and sets you free in every area. And we gamify the whole process. So the RIP, Rest in Peace app is designed to do that for you. I have 78 truth keys, and they're a part of this book, and they are basically the teaching of this book. I built the whole teaching on these keys. These are the keys to the kingdom. And in the expressing of consciousness, recognizing divine consciousness as one and the same, having no other gods, no other powers, no other focus, no other realities. God alone governs, God alone is good, and God is love. When you turn to this activity of using this app, you are engaging with truth, turning away from the world and its ignorant conclusions, turning to the truth itself, and letting go of all responsibility that you were never supposed to bear the burden of. Christ said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." It gets rid of all the heavy-heartedness, and it makes you a light worker. And so as you engage with this is next level stuff. You probably ought to start with trust and master that with the training that I put in there. I put a training in that book, Trust, for you, to really get you to the Gnostic master level of your knowledge, at least. You may not have it in your heart yet, but I can get you to the knowledge that puts you in the possession of the ultimate secrets that you've always wanted your whole life, that trauma has tried to hide from you your whole life. The teachings in the book Trust are the nuggets of wisdom that I picked up right before the eradication of trauma, when it was at its ultimate uprooting phase. You see, they say that when you take gold, which is a pure substance, and you put it into your environment, it purifies your environment. Well, when you put the gospel of good, the gold, the authority, AU is the symbolic, AU on the periodic chart, and you put gold into your environment here, the gold of the gospel, it causes all of those pockets of ignorance that are still remaining in your environment to show themselves to you face to face, so that you can call them nothing and let them go. You little nothing, go. Your evil is nothing, go. Now, Jesus, on many accounts, acted just that way, being tempted. And there's the story. Trauma comes to tempt you in the garden of your thought, possessing its own carnal resources of sight, smelling, hearing, tasting, and touching that are rooted in sensuality. Sensuality and carnality are one and the same. Now, as you rise out into the spirit, which is what engaging with these truths do through the app. It's the best way to get there is to consume it. See, just like if you would consume monatomic gold, and I don't recommend you go out and just do it without getting well educated on why it could be potentially good or not good for you. Basically, if we have to qualify it, you better go get some research, is what I'm saying. Are you ready for that purification process yet, is what I'm saying. Because it will purify you at levels that you may not be comfortable with. Like holding on to a bucking horse that is full of power, it could just throw you right off your own mental stability. And that's what happens to a lot of people that try to speed and expedite this process. Now, but bringing in the gospel of good, consuming the truth, and I have given 78 keys of the highest truths I've ever discovered throughout all of the teachings I've gone through for thousands of hours, from Joel Goldsmith to Mary Baker Eddy to Phineas Parkhurst Quimby to Dr. Sarno to German New Medicine, you name it. I look for golden keys to wisdom through common denominators and through spiritual verification. Does this teaching line up with the Bible? Is it replicatable? Is it a principle? And if it is, let's demonstrate it. And then after demonstrating these throughout many years, I've distilled all of my teachings into these 78 keys. Now, these keys of themselves are potent enough to transform all of the environments that you put them in, because they're truth. They are ultimate truth emanating from divine love. And so when you consume divine love through truth and understanding, or understanding, so you have to see the truth and you have to be it. You have to see, feel, and be perfection. And so engaging with this app is a way for you to do this. And also, you meditate on these keys, and that's part of what you do with the app. And the meditation is the integration. It is the setting of the altar of wisdom in the tabernacle that you come under, like the psalmist. You come under the wings and the shadow of the Most High by doing this. And then you will know what the psalmist David describes in the Bible from your own life experiencing of being in the verb of love, because you contemplate what you become. And this whole book is designed to get you to contemplate divine love and then to begin living it. And you will live your good life then. And that's what this thing is all about. So my approximate launch date for this is August of this year. I'd like to launch in August. I have a lot of other things I'm going to launch along with it that are just going to keep on the down low for now, because there's no reason to scatter the energies yet. They're coming. But at the end of the day, what this is Allow Ministries Church. All right? Now, I know some people are like, no, the church is the building where you go to and you get down on your knees 3 times a day and you go once a week and they pass the basket around, and I always pretend like I don't have to do that. And, I get out of there scotch-free, and then I can go back to sitting the rest of the week because I'm free, because I went to church and everybody knows I was there. I'm a good guy, No, that's not going to cut it around here. Church is the structure of divine love. Burn that into your consciousness. That's the principle of church. It's the structure of the body of Christ, which is divine love, and restoring that structure within consciousness is the living church. The dead church is what I formerly said. The living church and the dead church never coincide with one another. Because to look upon flesh and to look upon division and to enter a world of externalities qualifying them as good and evil is what bound you to this place, and it gave you the opening for trauma to come and steal your goods. So I come to give you those goods back, and I know how to do it. And so that's coming, and it's already here for those that follow this ministry. It's not because of me. It's not because of I'm trying to prove something to you. The only thing I could prove to you is that how little I could achieve of myself. Before I began tithing, I had nothing. I had no hope. I had nobody. Tithing is the highest form of spiritual honor you can give to your Creator in terms of surrendering self-governance for true capital self-governance. Because the thing that you fear about most is your own provision, protection, and promotion in this world. And if they took it all away from you, you'd have nothing if you didn't have the kingdom. And the only way to the kingdom consciousness is to sacrifice what is fake for what is real. And that's why the word money and wealth and all the synonyms for that are in the Bible more than anything else. Because God knows how important it is for you. And I was nothing in my healing journey until I stopped giving all power of good and evil to all sorts of material things and ideas and opinions and body parts and personal history and all of this belief that I was ever born of a material mother and father. Because you cannot access the kingdom until you renounce your former life to gain your life. Read your scripture, that's exactly what Christ said. And I was nothing with no wisdom until I decided to surrender my days to give this wisdom, to be able to take in wisdom and to give it, and to make that my life mission, to be a servant of God. That's the only thing that I love doing more than anything in all of my time and all of my energy, is I love being in this presence right here with you, one mind, one power, one activity, one consciousness, remembering and reflecting that which is, and allowing for God alone, through divine love, to make whole our paths. That's what a minister does, and that's what a church is. So again, thank you for being part of Allow Ministries, and I know the best is yet to come, and we're going to scale quantumly from here. Everything up until now was the rediscovery of truth. Everything up until now with this ministry has been the rediscovery of truth. Everything forward with this ministry is the deployment of truth. Think of everything we did before as test market, and everything we do now is full expansion, integration, simplification, streamline, standardize. And that's where we're going. So again, for those who support this ministry, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is what we use. The seeds that you sow, we pray over them. We know that you're prospering. We know the principle that when man thinks he's giving, man's receiving. I know this because I live it. I know this because I'm humble enough to know that God does all things. And it's not me that teaches. It's not me that prospers. It is when I yield to God and God doeth through me, as me, and all around me, because there is only God. And thank you for your time, for the moments that you spend being in this reflection with me. Because without you, there would be days when I would not be certain that I was fulfilling my mission here. My mission is to be the best in the world at what I do. And what is that? Giving the keys to access the kingdom. Giving the keys to access the kingdom. That's the shortest way I can say it. I want to be that guy that says, here, take this. It's everything I've got. I dug deep for it throughout many years. I went through a lot of fiery trials. I've seen terror, I've seen joy. But most importantly, I know the path home. Here, take this. That's how you get back. That's me, that's what I do. And I walk. And I create this perfect day that the Lord hath blessed through my consciousness. So that's all for now. More will come.